Hello, I'm Paul Ekins and I'm Professor of Resources and Environmental Policy at University College London, which is the building you can see behind you. And I'm going to talk to you today about fossil fuel subsidies. Subsidies to fossil fuels make their prices either to producers or consumers, or both, lower than they should be. This means that producers have an incentive to produce more of them and consumers to burn more of them. This situation runs counter to the need to produce and consume less fossil fuel in order to reduce the emissions that cause climate change. Subsidies come in many forms. Governments may give grants or tax breaks to fossil fuel companies for exploration or production. They may reduce the prices of fossil fuels to consumers below market prices, or they may exempt fossil fuel production or consumption from the prices levied on other production or consumption. The International Monetary Fund also classes as a subsidy the failure to include in the prices of fossil fuels the costs of damages to the environment and human health from burning fossil fuels. And the IMF estimates the explicit financial subsidies to fossil fuels to have been around $800 billion in 2020, and the costs of local pollution and global warming in that year to have been more than $4 trillion. It also estimates that removing all these subsidies would reduce global CO2 emissions by 36% below where they're otherwise likely to be in 2025, and put the world on track to reach the temperature targets in the Paris Agreement. Moreover, the environmental benefits would be worth 3 times the economic costs. So, why don't we do it? Because removing fossil fuel subsidies would make fossil fuel companies less profitable and would raise the prices of fossil fuels to consumers. Such removal is extremely difficult politically. Fossil fuel companies have a lot of political influence, and no one likes paying more for energy. On the production side, countries subsidize their fossil fuel industry, like some other industries, to get the jobs from domestic production and get the foreign exchange benefits of reducing imports or increasing exports of fossil fuels. On the consumption side, one reason that is often given for subsidizing fossil fuels is to protect low-income and other vulnerable households from having excessive fuel bills. And yet, because high-income households tend to consume more energy than low-income households and therefore benefit most from the subsidies, removing the subsidies would always free up enough government money to give low-income households enough extra income to cover their extra energy expenditure as a result of subsidy removal. One is left with the conclusion that people and companies are addicted to fossil fuel subsidies and don't like paying for pollution when they're used to doing it for free. And most governments are willing to continue to feed the addiction rather than face the political unpopularity of addressing the issue. It's hard to see how we can effectively address the climate crisis for as long as this is the case. So, what's the solution? Well, it's just old-style political engagement. The people, like you and me, persuading their politicians and governments that they are ready to kick the habit of fossil fuel use, and they want their money to be spent on promoting clean energy rather than the fossil fuels that are damaging our health and the environment. It can work. Governments have reduced or removed fossil fuel subsidies in some countries. It's not easy, but it can be done. We now have to persuade more governments to do it. Thank you.